All right, delighted to say we are joined by Dublin's Jonny Cooper. Jonny, you're settling into the surrounds of a beautiful press box there.
It is very modest, I must say, but Dublin GA leave no expense spared. They have the heaters ongoing right through the winter, so
This is a winter championship as well. We're looking out the window here, and it's lashing rain before a ball has even been kicked in a championship. You're probably looking forward to one day get settling down in a nice warm studio and not having to get out in this and do the hard yards in the middle of winter.
yeah, one way of looking at it. There is definitely going to be difference, I guess, yeah, in the championship. And I guess the weather and the fact, but you do play in it in the national leagues and that type of thing. So it's not that we're unaccustomed to it. I guess just not the championship weather as such that we used to. But at the same time, it's kind of exciting in a way. It's different, but it's perhaps different in a good way as well. So exciting, I guess, is the main word.
Yeah, you were doing a piece with Joe a few months ago, and you were talking about how I guess you look at a lot of different sports. You do a lot of self-analysis for a year where I think a lot of people have had to self-analyze quite a bit in all walks of life. What have you done throughout 2020?
Yeah, well, I guess COVID, as you rightly said, in particular, gave people a lot of space, be it working from home or just in general, the Zoom calls and the connectedness that you can get anywhere across the world. So lucky enough to get in contact with a few people and teams, organizations, I guess, in the background. Asked a couple of questions, tried to learn as much as I could. So in many respects, I'm still trying to learn as I always am and hopefully will continue to do so. But COVID just gave a bit more of a reach. As I said, and teams, right across Australia and some other things, were good enough to give their time. So look, I think that journey continues for me, and no doubt some of the other lads did the same.
So rather than actually allowing the pandemic to slow down your eagerness to learn, it actually accelerated that for you.
Yeah, well, I think certainly from my experience of the last, the couple of months of COVID, I think there was definitely times where I was extremely motivated, and there was times where I just let things go free, and as they came, be it training or be it learning or reading or whatever it happened to be, it just wasn't working, and just listen to your mind and body. But thankfully, for the most part, I was able to stay on top of things and stay engaged. And yeah, in some ways it accelerated, and some ways, we just kept tipping away around the learning aspect for me personally. So yeah, I think, and hopefully there's a bit more as well. It's not that it has to stop now because all the lockdown, even though there's still a bit of lockdown, but still lots more.
How do you manage to stay engaged? Is there a trigger you have mentally?
For me, it's probably just listening. I'm probably at an age or experience maybe more so to kind of listen to, what the head or what the body is kind of telling you more so. So I might have a diary or a template or a certain number of sessions or whatever it may be in a week, but sometimes the one on the Wednesday, it doesn't happen because, something else comes in that I'd be more, just be more, I guess, connected with, be it, friends and a few other things. And certainly COVID has given me that space to, reconnect with the club, friends, and just people in that space that typically the summer wouldn't have given you. So it's certainly given me lots of perspective and balance. And I'm very grateful, I think, for that as well, personally.
When you mean perspective, what does that encapsulate? Is it a sporting perspective, or is this nothing to do with football at all?
No, nothing to do with football,
Right.
really at all. In some ways, football is intertwined into that. As a game of football, there's a lot of bigger things at play, or certainly the last couple of months. And I think lots of people have been saying that, sports people and otherwise, that just allow people to step back and for other ways, just press a bit of a pause button and just reflect, stand back, see where things are at in this part or that part of your life. Sports is obviously a massive part of my life, so I think it's given me that space just to step back and have a look at the position I'm on in the team, and can I do more, and can I add more value to the younger guys and a few other things. So it's been good in that respect.
And when you do have those conversations, is the answer usually yes, that I can add more value, I can be doing more in my position in the team?
Yeah, I think I probably come to that conclusion at the start. You're sort of in terms of the last couple of months for me anyway, where can I add more value? What would my teammates like me to do? What would the management, their coaching staff, how can I grow? Where is the growth? And there's obviously lots of it. And with a new management and coaching staff, very initially and straight away, you're getting a new perspective and a new thought process and opinion on different things. And, there's growth straight away. And then there's a couple of newer, younger guys in. And again, you're trying to, they take your position, but you're also trying to impart some knowledge as well. So there definitely is lots of it. It's just trying to stay connected and attuned to, my position on the team. And if I can add value, well and good. If I can't, then, let's look at something else.
I'd say that must be a really difficult balance to strike between doing your best for the team, as in trying to tell the new up-and-coming cornerback how to be the very best version they can, and also trying to hold on to your jersey. How do you manage to find that balance?
I just think you have to be, in my experience, completely open, completely vulnerable, put all the cards on the table, and whether that's not that I have any secrets, but that's the biggest secret that you've ever come across, and the new guy in the door, and you tell him, or you work with him or talk to him, and you just lay it all on the table, because at the end of the day, if it's going to make, and it might connect with the person a lot, but if it's going to make somebody better, then in turn, hopefully that will make you a little bit better, or certainly allow you to be more connected. And I think that's one of the positions that I have, is just to stay connected with as many people on the team, to particularly younger guys, to make sure that in 5-7 years time they'll be doing the same thing, and hopefully the cycle will continue.
How important is that mentality to going on a very, very successful run like the Dubs have done over the last few years? Because I guess that is a mindset that you can really double down on when you are coming from a very high base every single year.
Yeah, well, I think the older guys have been there for 4, 5, 6, 8, kind of years, have a particular responsibility to make sure that the behaviours, the vibe, the energy that is circulating and it's in the air almost in our environment, in our culture, is there and it's maintained. And obviously the newer guys coming in, and they're all extremely talented and emotionally intelligent and in their own right, so they do pick it up. But I think at the same time, and on the flip side of things, it's being curious. What does the guy in the door week, what does he think? What does he see? What could we do better? And I think there's a bit of both, I guess. Here's the standard, here's a template, but at the same time, nothing is rigid and fixed, and you can take this socket out and put in that socket, so there's lots of different things and that are there and play into it. And at the moment, we're lucky the dynamic is good. There's obviously no guarantee it'll stay that way. You have to work hard at it like anything else, so we'll continue to do that, hopefully.
I definitely got that sense, even though we only got a few games to see this year, that's kind of how the new management are going to operate as well, that there was obviously this brilliant body of work that already existed within the camp, but it's still no harm plugging out a few things, plugging in a few different things.
Yeah, and sometimes just plug out the whole system, just take it out from the wall and see how the group react, and what then needs to get back in as quick as possible. Obviously, some things are very critical and you can't take out everything, of course, but certainly there's new things you can try, there's new styles, there's new parts of language, there's new ways you can communicate as such in terms of what's said. So there's plenty of different things, and I think, and that's like, it gives you obviously a freshness of voice, freshness of opinion, freshness of perspective, of thought. And then at the same time, as we spoke about earlier on, you as a player, you're trying to earn your little bit of space, and is what I'm doing enough? Is he seeing the value that I can have, or maybe I need to go and ask him for more feet? So all that just gives you, again, a bit like the kind of COVID situation, a bit of a press pause button, a bit of a reflection space. Okay, where do we need to go? What does he want to see? What does coaching staff want to see? What value can I add? And as I said, hopefully time will tell, obviously, but hopefully that will play dividend out in the long run.
How close a relationship did you and Dessie have at club level before he comes into being Dublin manager?
Yeah, I would have worked with Dessie directly, I guess, for kind of that year with the club, that he had us with the club senior teams. That would have been my main engagement with him. Involved in the kind of leadership of that team. So I guess would have worked close enough with him, as well as some of the other guys on the team for that year. I would have known him for plenty of years previous, but not in that regard. So I guess now with the Dublin side of things, it's kind of my second year, if you like, being involved underneath him.
What's his philosophy on football? Like, I know that can be such a wide, vague question to ask, but if you could pin it down to something, what underpins Dessie Farrell's philosophy?
I just think playing kind of with freedom and being energised. and again, that's probably a bit of a vague and a wide-scoping answer to respond with, but I think that probably is and probably encapsulates. And even if you look at kind of tapes of him and his coaching style over the last with the underage teams and even went to the club and so on, just trying to present yourself in such a fashion that, yeah, you'll have the parameters and Hill and his coaching staff will help you craft them parameters, but when you're inside that box, just to be as creative and open and expressive, and and that can be equally as effective or not, but as effective on offense or on defense. So yeah, that expressive, and I think that probably comes back to his nature of his original profession and the health side of things and being caring and just giving people space to grow and that type of thing. And you probably see that, and it's probably evident in my experience so far.
How much of an icon was he to you when you were a kid in the 90s watching that Nafina team, watching that Dublin team?
Yeah, would have been extremely fortunate. Would have remembered they played on a Wednesday league games in Dublin at the time, and himself, Jason, and Jason and Senan Connell in particular would have been kind of the three idols or heroes, as well as many other people, Geezer and a few others over the years then thereafter. But yeah, I remember watching them all the time. Obviously didn't get to know them for a good number of years later. But certainly when you look back, and I think that's part of the environment, and sometimes you're lucky to have these engagements, and obviously it's come full circle now. You're kind of working close enough with them, having watched them for so many years on the sidelines. So I guess time will tell with regards to how successful or how far we can get together and see what that journey takes.
How good was Geezer for that Nafina team?
Yeah, there's some people you can just see you see your Paul O'Connell's, and you can just, even when you're watching on TV screen, it's palpable. It jumps through the screen. You can just see the energy. You can see the authority. You can see the space. You can see it obviously in plenty of other athletes in all sports around the world. And that's what would have been, would have had that kind of, just attraction towards him. And he didn't often play those club league games because he would have been up home around that time. Armagh were pretty successful. So wouldn't have been playing. But when he was playing, you could see the preparation, and before eating pasta was cool and now it's not cool. He was the gym was cool and so on. He was doing that type of thing. So yeah, massive influence. I'm lucky enough to met him a few times and spoken a few times over the years, recent years as well, and just about being thankful and grateful for him. And he obviously wouldn't have known at the time, but for his influence. And I know lots of people have different influences and role models, but he certainly would have been one of my, as well as the lads, but one of mine growing up.
Yeah, because again, comparing him to Paul O'Connell is really high praise, and I guess there's something about those sort of characters that we often can't put our finger on as, what is the thing that drives them beyond the obvious thing of winning a Grand Slam or winning Sam Maguire. I'm not sure, is that something you ever managed to dig into in your conversations with Kieran?
No, probably not. Haven't got that far yet because we're on opposite sides of the potentially opposite sides. Yeah, but certainly some of the conversations I've had, and you can see how deeply connected he is with a few ideas and where he comes from and his values and his behaviours, and you put him in a similar, and again, these are just my opinions or my, I guess, reflections growing up, like your Johnny Wilkinson, and how kind of connected they are with a deep-rooted higher purpose, wanting to change lives, change communities. And I don't know Kieran's, Geezer's higher purpose as such, but you can kind of just get that sense of there's something always bigger going on, and he's kind of all of himself forward. Anything that I've seen anyway, putting all of himself forward to see, I guess, who else can gain from it. So interesting, maybe one day it's down with a cup of tea in a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be a conversation I think everybody would love to listen to. The point of a higher purpose is actually really interesting, because if you have it naturally, that's great, and you can fly for that higher purpose. I wonder if there's like a psychological thing that players can do to almost, artificially create a higher purpose in their own head. I'm not sure if that's something that players do, or if that's a psychological thing that you can actually tap into.
Yeah, well, I think it's very important. Number one, I don't know how much you can force it or fake it's probably a wrong word, but force it, because the higher purpose is going to probably keep you going through the very, very bad days and very, very dark moments. And if it's kind of not based or not anchored or not connected to something really strong, then it would probably get taken away with the tide at some point. So I think it's a very good point you make. I think lots of athletes and people often have, whether it's changing other people's lives or change the community or whatever it may be. Always have that going on. So it's an interesting one. You could probably get into a whole conversation in itself regards to power in it. And look, people use them, people don't use them, have probably had success as well as athletes in this team. So there's probably cases to be made on both sides of the fence too.
For sure. There's just one other thing I wanted to ask you about, Jonny. I've just been reading Bernard Brogan's book over the last little while. I think there's one page in particular where you come out of it looking extremely good, especially in the gym sessions. Those gym sessions in St. Clair's, you mentioned it there in relation to seeing Kieran McGeeney doing a bit of work in the gym. For you, it's Bernard Brogan that he picks you out as one of the high performers in those sessions. What is the secret to that? What were those sessions like during, I guess, Bernard's time there? What are they like now, those gym sessions, and how competitive can they be?
Yeah, well, I think it's probably no different in some ways to kind of walking over the white line onto a pitch when you're walking into the gym environment. We have a very lucky enough to have Brian Cullen leading us in that direction and the support staff there. So I think it's quite competitive in its own right. I haven't read Bernard's book or that particular instant that you're talking about, but I think when you go into the gym, it's quite competitive and there's all sorts going on. There could be your weights, there could be your cardio, there could be a bit of extras going on. But I think the whole time there's always a good energy and a good vibe. I think that's the main thing. Having it can be competitive and should be competitive, but it also should be, I guess, energetic and feel like you're flowing to the right place. And bear in mind, if you have a certain challenge going on that the guy beside you wants to beat you, and at the end of the day, competitiveness inside is an important trait to have. So they're still enjoyable, I can say that, and they're still challenging, certainly from my perspective. And I guess long may that continue because it breaks things up a little bit as well, and it gets you away from the pitch in some cases when you don't need to be there and so on. So yeah, enjoyable, and hopefully we'll continue on that vein.
Bernard described you as a process ninja. What does that mean?
Process ninja. I don't know. Yeah, I guess just step by step and just maybe following the instructions that you're given. I think there's process and then there's creativity, and I think both are very important to be yourself and to be innovative and so on. At the same time, there's only so many ways you can cycle a bike or get as many meters as 30 seconds or whatever it may be, or on the rower. So interesting process ninja. I haven't heard that one, but interesting.